In a world of constant noise, even when it is quiet, it is hard to be fully present. We have news alerts, social media dings, text message beeps, email blasts, traffic honking, city symphony playing, etc. It's exhausting. And it seems that with every new technological advancement, there is a flurry of new notifications with the illusion of urgency and importance. Every day we are challenged by myriad distractions that make it harder and harder to be present. Are we ever fully present today? We are a generation that thrives in documentation through photographs and video. Why? Because moments after a moment has occurred, we can replay it, relive it, refeel it. We can bring the past into our present. We fill our homes with pictures of happy times, exotic vacations, smiling faces who no longer walk our earth. We keep social media applications that flood our knowledge of a person with what we see in a photograph. We share images of our life to express a certain blip of time, hoping for a moment of our past to entice someone to, quote, like it in the present and validate the moment. We also take certain videos and photos just for us or just for a certain group of people, recognizing the world does not need to see into each moment of life lived, but rather we are able to go back and glimpse at a moment that we know was just special just for us. We bring our past along with us in our wallet, in our phones, on the walls of our home to influence the moments of our present that need reminders of love, joy, beauty, adventure, life lived. On July 11th, 2022, the world was shocked by a technological event. The James Webb Space Telescope had made history that day by releasing its debut photos, jewel-strewn images that have been touted as our deepest yet look at the universe. I woke up from a nap after an early morning flight and walked into the living room to hear, "It's hard to believe what we're seeing." A photograph that shows us today what our universe looked like 13.5 billion years ago. A photograph that changes the meaning of being fully present to include new ideas about being present in our past. At this moment on Earth, I was standing in a living room and looking at a photograph that showed me the universe at the beginning of time. Awesome. And who cares? The beginning of time was billions of years ago. And even if we can see what the stars looked like, it's not a photograph that shows me the Garden of Eden or Noah's flood. Does this new discovery mean that sentient beings millions of light years away from us and millions of years into the future could be looking at you and me right now, here on Earth? No, I'm not trying to sell you on a sci-fi film, but more poignantly, could they be looking at my great-grandparents, alive and well in the 1970s? It's a disorienting discovery that you and I are living at the same time as beings past or future. Can I be living fully present in my past or fully present in my future? Is it healthy to live in those memories? Is it wise for us to recall past experiences and history? Shouldn't we strive to be more present and soak in the moments of now? In an article written in the Washington Post on August 21st that was titled, "When Looking Back Helps Us Move Forward," writer Daryl Austin quotes Erica Hepper from the University of Surrey in England saying, "Far from keeping people living in the past, nostalgia can be a powerful resource both for coping with difficult times and for propelling us positively into the future. Nostalgia is part of the fabric of everyday life." I remember very clearly as a child when my dad went away to Hawaii for a gig. He was going to be gone for a few days, but to a young child, that feels like forever. My mom gave me a vial of his cologne that was empty, but it still smelled like him. I was able to carry it around with me and when I missed him, I could smell the empty bottle and feel like he was here. Or at least be comforted with the memories of him being near me that would hold me until his return. We are not yet able to see our ancient ancestors with any kind of technology, nor do I think that my uncle, my grandmother, my great-grandparents are able to see me now. For one thing, our distances of time and space are not nearly great enough to facilitate that. But I can believe that seeing current images of a past means there are possibilities of time bending we haven't dreamed of yet. Every Friday night, we interrupt time until Saturday night when we resume with Havdalah, a literal ritual of distinction back into time. We create a sanctuary in time, as Heschel put it, to be present, to cease from creation, to appreciate who we are right now and not worry about what is to come. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. And yet, in order to appreciate the present, must we acknowledge our past? We begin this sanctuary in time with Kiddush, a prayer over wine that in its explanation is all about creation. Yom hashishi vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chotzevam vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishpot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. God made the seventh day holy, distinct from the other 6 days, uplifted and different because of the boundaries around time. And yet, a few lines later, we're brought back into memory of leaving Egypt because without that moment, we would not be in this one. So even on a day where we are supposed to be most present, most centered in the here and now, we are whooshed back into a scene of our freedom from ages ago. Looking into a telescope to see a sea parting and our ancestors leaving to allow us this moment in a room of electricity and organic wine made in your city of choice and bought in one of the hundreds of grocery stores that you could pick from. Choosing to be present and intentional with one foot firmly rooted always in our history. We have this unfortunate phrase in our society that often emerges when talking about someone who is going through grief. How will they move on? Move on? What does it mean to move on from someone you love, from memories you created, from homes you built, from lives you curated? How do you move on from something, someone that helped you define who you are? We don't move on. We move forward. I listened to a beautiful and heart-wrenching and hysterical TED Talk by Nora McInerney, where she talks about tragedy, specifically the tragedy of losing her husband, though she mentions losing a pregnancy and her father's death as well. She talks about people asking if she can move on as if, quote, those were just moments that you can leave behind and probably should. She admits that when talking about her husband, she slips into the present tense because the people we love are still present for us. He's indelible, so he's present for me, she says. We move forward, we do not move on. We use memories to uplift our steps into the future, realizing that our present is baked with ingredients from the past. Chadesh yameinu kekedem, renew our days of old. A phrase that we sing each time we put our Torah away and a central theme of Tisha B'Av. Move forward by looking backwards. Renew your future by acknowledging your roots. Rabbi Robert Scheinberg says, it means renew our lives as you renewed our lives after we were exiled from the Garden of Eden. Chadesh Yameinu Kikedem is then not a plea for restoration of a formerly perfect condition, but rather it is a plea for resilience, a plea for the ability to renew ourselves after future crises and dislocations, just as our lives have been renewed before. As Elie Wiesel said, God gave Adam a secret, and that secret was not how to begin, but how to begin again. We begin again by acknowledging that our past, our nostalgia for what was, is going to push us forward. We need to smell that cologne, to sing those tunes, to retell those stories to move forward, not to move on. In the Midrash Tanchuma, it expounds on the word Bereshit to mean that God created the world through beginningness. The Midrash goes on to quote Proverbs, which says, Hashem b'chokhmah yasad aretz, God with wisdom founded the earth. Meaning just like our souls, which are created from something that came before us, God consulted the Torah before creating the world. Obviously, if we read our Torah as a linear text, that makes no sense. However, our rabbis are trying to explain that our world was created with foundational knowledge and baggage from our stories, our ancestors, and the nostalgia we would feel living in the present creation. For example, when our people are leaving the desert and they're complaining about all that they had to leave behind in slavery in order to reach this new land as a new people, the rabbis commented that based on their nostalgia, they were scared. And they wanted to go back to what was comfortable and known, even if what was in front of them was better and special. In this case, the nostalgia obscured their ability to see the future ahead of them, rather than inspire us to take on this new adventure. The world is now able to see into the past, to look back as if in a time machine as to what our universe looked like at the beginning. We're now able to imagine that maybe, just maybe, our past truly does keep up with us. We could always feel it, but now we can see it. The stars that the telescope reveals may actually be long dead today, but as their ancient light makes the lengthy journey across the universe, the Webb telescope treats our mortal eyes to a one-of-a-kind time travel display. We can now realize what the broken tablets that we carried through the wilderness taught us. We're always living with the past influencing us. We are always living with the past seeing us. We are living, and those we remember and those we miss who maybe we never met are seeing us. Genealogy is a hobby for some and became a passion for many during COVID. My friend and colleague, Rabbi Scott Kalmakoff, taught a session at Beth at the beginning of the pandemic that may have been one of the most influential sessions we have ever taught as part of the Rembam Institute. Scott walked us through how to find ancestors and how to easily connect to your past as a way of better understanding your future. I knew my dad would be interested in this and connected the two of them. So Scott took down some information from my dad about our family members and looked up material that we never knew existed, and of course, some that we did know resurfaced. Scott asked my dad and I to join him on a Zoom call one day and showed us pictures and lists of names of ancestors I didn't know I had. One picture was of a house in Brooklyn, very close to where my brother now lives. It was the home where my grandmother had lived, and with her now gone, my brother could go and visit her childhood home and bring a piece of her back to him. Another artifact was that I might be the first Rabbi Rebecca Schatz, but I am the second Rebecca Schatz in our family tree. One reason this is so interesting is because Rebecca was the name of my great-grandmother on my mother's side. So my father's side was not even known to be a connection to that piece of my name. I became emotional watching my dad get so excited with knowing this information. His eyes widen, his past becoming a major part of his present. And more than anything, his mom, my Grandma Rini, who died 18 years ago, was very much brought back to life in her history being uncovered. Genealogy allows us to live even more deeply in this moment by understanding who came before us to gift us with our life now. I'll be honest, in this time of reflection and confession, being fully present in the here and now is very difficult for me. I work at being present for others, but in my own life, I am often 5 steps ahead or ruminating in the past. On a trip, I'm planning the next one. I'm making a meal, I'm planning how those leftovers are going to be used for the next week. It's a goal of mine to be more present this year, to recognize that the moment you are in is the most important moment of life. The Dalai Lama said, there are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day to love, to believe, to do, and mostly to live. And that is my charge for myself this year, to be present in each of my moments, because if I'm so busy planning the future, I'll miss out on what's happening right now. Hineni, here I am right now, grateful for how I got here, who allowed me to be me in this moment and for the experiences, challenges, triumphs, and trials that life has thrown my way to arrive here right now as this version of myself. Nostalgia might offer a more positive and constructive way of connecting with our past, rather than ruminating on negative emotions and experiences. Nostalgia allows us to reflect on treasured, even triumphant moments, moments of love and joy. Nostalgia becomes fertile ground for healthy potentiality. Looking through the Webb telescope, it might be that our future and our past are catching glimpses of this present moment. However, what is even more evocative is the way that we feel when remembering the past while living our moments fully present. We are not supposed to move on from moments that have created our identity. We are not supposed to move on from experiences that have shaped future experiences for the better. We are supposed to move forward. Just like the Webb telescope, we are to be the light that connects our past to the present and ultimately the future. We are to move forward, living fully present, rooted deeply in our past.